Hello? Hello? Hi! Yes, it's me! Hello! Good to see you! This is Marcus Stewart here, and welcome to Marcus Talks About Games, what episode is this? It's been a little bit of a while. Episode 16, that's what my notes say here, the number 16. Here we are, 16 times, podcast champion. I am the Ric Flair, and I guess the John Cena as well, of podcast episodes in terms of numbers, I guess. It wouldn't be a podcast of mine if I didn't make some sort of wrestling reference, but how are you doing? It's been a couple weeks since you last heard from me. I know some of you listening are probably wondering, where the hell have you been, you son of a bee? And the answer is nowhere. In particular, I've been here. I've still been playing a lot of games, still working, writing game articles, currently prepping for E3, which is in a couple weeks or so, which is both exciting and terrifying, but more exciting. And yeah, honestly, it was I kind of went through a bit of a creative slump, I'll say, at least with this show. I don't know why, but I was just having a hard time sitting down to just record and do what the show says on the title, the marquee. Marcus Talks About Games. Marcus was having a hard time talking about games, at least into a microphone. I could talk about it with other people, and I'm not entirely sure why that is. Like I said, I think it was just the creatively, I was just kind of in a rut, which if any of you are creative people, you could probably identify with. I was having a hard time coming up with ideas, and I guess there's that part of my brain that I'm a bit of a perfectionist, which is both a gift and a curse. Whereas, I'd rather not do anything than to do something I felt was half-assed or subpar. So then I just didn't record anything for a couple weeks, and I was really wanting to. I got the itch back after that first week, and I was just trying to decide how I was going to do it and what I was going to talk about. I mean, there was plenty to talk about, as you'll soon see with this episode. There's quite a bit of ground that I would like to cover. But yeah, it was me. It was not you guys. It was me. And it was not a breakup of any kind. And I apologize immensely if you enjoy listening to this show and were wondering if I had walked into a wormhole to Dimension X and never returned. If I stepped into the land of the lost. I have not gone to either of those places. Thankfully, I was just having a rough time doing this thing that I'm doing now, just sitting here in front of my microphone and talking about my passion, the thing that I love more than anything. Well, maybe not more than anything. I like my family and stuff like that, but you get what I mean. I like video games quite a bit, and I enjoy the medium. I love the industry. I love everything around it for the most part. There's certainly some black spots with the industry here and there, but overall, I just love this stuff. And that's why I'm back. I guess I was like Shawn Michaels to go back to wrestling again. I lost my smile a little bit, and then I had to leave to find my smile again. I did not have to fake a knee injury and surrender the championship, but you get the idea. For anyone that was a fan of Monday Night Raw in 1997, I found my smile again, and I was like, you know what? I want to do this. I've got the fire back. I want to talk about games, and my God, is there a lot of games to talk about, both games that I have been playing, as well as game just news and stuff like that. And then of course with E3 right around the corner, holy crap, video games are happening. They are happening at an alarming rate, and I could not be more excited. So let's just dive right into it. Marcus Talks About Games, episode 16. Thank you for coming back. Gather around, join me on this audio journey where I just BS about video games and all that stuff. You know how it is. So what have I been playing? A whole lot of stuff, a lot of old stuff, a lot of new stuff. Let's start with the new stuff. I have been playing Dauntless, or at least I recently started playing Dauntless. I'm not super duper far into it. If you're not familiar, Dauntless is the recently released free-to-play Monster Hunter-ish co-op game. It was in early access or open beta or whatever you want to call it for a long time. I want to say like at least a year and a half. Like I feel like I've been to multiple E3s and other trade shows, and it was always there in some capacity. Like, it always had a booth, and you could play it. And yeah, so it has released in full as of, what was it, 2 days ago? Something like that. And it's available on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and PC as an Epic Game Store exclusive. And when you look at it, it basically is Monster Hunter if it looked like Fortnite, like has a very similar kind of that DreamWorks-ish animated look to it. Nice looking game. And I've started playing yesterday, and I've only completed a few of the very early missions. Like, you know, you start off, you make a character. The character selection stuff is rather limited. It's okay. I made a bald dude with a sweet beard. And then you just jump into the world. I think you're a part of like this hunting band. Like there's a whole cutscene that plays that I was barely able to pay attention to because the game is, at least when I was playing it, I would like to know what everyone else experienced, but I had some very big glitch issues. In fact, the time that I played, at least the when I finally got into the game, I should say, was actually my second time booting it up, because the first time I tried to play, I couldn't get into the game. Like I made a character, and then it went to this load screen that went on forever. And it wasn't even like the regular loading screen. It was like the Dauntless logo didn't even pop up. So it was like loading the load screen almost. And it sat there for a long time. And I assumed maybe something went wrong, because even when you start the game, you get like a splash screen saying like, hey, you know, this is still a work in progress. So, you know, look out for weirdness. So I encountered such weirdness. And then I just kind of quit out and did something else. And then I came back to it later, was able to get in the second time. Everything loaded fine. But then the intro cutscene, my character kept phasing in and out of the world. Like he was blinking violently, like he was just barely in existence. And not only that, but he was falling through the floor constantly. And like the collision was absent to where like he was like, I want to say like he basically melted maybe waist deep into the floor in his spot. And then at the same time as he's just trapped in the floor, he's just kind of blinking constantly in and out. So it's almost like, it was like Shadowcat from X-Men, Kitty Pryde, with her phasing abilities. Like if her power started going wonky all of a sudden, that's basically what my character was going through in his opening cutscene. So that was jarring, and it persisted throughout the entire scene. So like there's a whole thing where you're on a plane, you're talking to like your crew and your leader, and then like the plane crashes and you know you barely survive, and all of that was less than ideal, just because my character was just freaking out the whole time. So that was disappointing. But then once I hit the ground, everything worked well. The combat compared to Monster Hunter, and again, this is a very limited impressions. I've only played, I want to say maybe an hour of it, probably. It's very basic compared to Monster Hunter. Like I got a big broadsword, and I was going around just kind of like doing basic attacks, like a light and heavy attack. Fought a couple monsters. Combat has a pretty decent feel to it. Like I like it. And you know, you hit the monsters. They take a while to drop. The ones that I've seen so far didn't take as long as Monster Hunter, and it didn't seem as involved yet. Like they put you in front of a thing, they're like, kill it, which, you know, hit it with your sword. There was no messing around with traps or like potions or any sort of like preparatory work in both the intro and in the first actual hunt of the game. I've only seen a few of the stores so far to see what else they offered, and from what I've seen, you can get different armor sets and different types of melee weapons, but from what I've seen, I haven't seen every shop, but I've seen a fair amount of them. That seems to be more or less it. Like, so I'm assuming that combat is pretty much just like, hey, go hit that thing until it drops. I'm sure monsters have maybe different weaknesses, like, hey, maybe this is weak to fire attacks, or maybe this is weak to a certain weapon type, because you can, once you beat the monsters, you, like Monster Hunter, you get body parts from them, and you can use that to craft different types of gear. One of the first crafting missions you get is that you have to kill a specific monster to get its hide, and you have to craft weapons with that hide. So that was actually the last mission I did. And you're in a big social hub, so you see other players walking around in the beginning, and that's for like the town where all the shops are, and you see other live users just doing their thing, milling about. And the mission seemed to be co-op only from what I can tell. I want to dink around more to see if I can just play by myself or not. But when I did that hunting mission, it just drops you into a team of 3 random people. And, you can use voice chat or not. I didn't because I'm an asocial jerk. But no one else was using any voice chat either. And we really didn't need to because it was like, hey, the 4 of you go kill that thing. And that's a very easy thing to understand. We all rushed that thing and just swung at it with our swords until it ceased living, and then we got our loot and we got out of Dodge. So I'm curious to see how much you can do as a team. Like, can I venture off on my own? Is it like an Anthem thing, or if I go too far, am I going to get rubber band back to the team, or is it going to get the like, hey, your team's over there, you better get back over, you're going to fail the mission? Or are people free to kind of roam about and go different ways? Because when I was in that mission, I saw that, there's things you can loot in the environment, like different plants and stuff to get materials. And I was doing a bit of that, and then 2 of my teammates got ahead, and I was like, oh, I should probably go follow them. So I kind of felt pressured to go with them, which is natural for any sort of co-op game, especially if you're playing with strangers. You don't know if people are going to have the patience to wait for you as you dilly-dally picking up stuff. But I would like to know if there is any boundaries or consequence to going off on my own adventures for a bit. But I've crafted a new broadsword with that armor. I just switched over to the twin scythe things. They're kind of like blades. They almost remind me of kind of Kratos' Blades of Chaos a little bit. So I'm excited to try those, because I'm more of a fan of quick melee weapons as opposed to maybe slower things. The sword isn't super slow. It's kind of like the average weapon. It's got decent speed, decent attack. It's just a good all-rounder. But I'm excited to get back in there and try those Kratos blade things, assuming that I can get into it, because apparently, from what I've read, this game has been a bit of a hit since it launched. I forgot to mention as well that this is a cross-play game. So you're playing with players across PlayStation, Xbox, PC, and then apparently they're planning to launch this game on Switch and mobile at some point. So that's going to be a big player pool. But as of right now, the servers are having a hard time with the load of people. People have flocked to this game in such large numbers that I was reading that the queue times to get in have gone up to 3 hours. Where and it's to the point where they're literally doing a 1 in and 1 out. So as you're queuing up for a room, the only time you can get in is if somebody leaves, and then they'll just let another person in, and then it's full. So literally the servers are at capacity, and everyone else is just waiting until somebody leaves so you can go in, which is insane. Not only just for the I guess the preparatory standpoint of hey, did you guys not expect this or plan for this? That's not even what amazes me most, because that happens with a lot of multiplayer games. Not that it's an excuse, but I don't know. I'm more surprised that the response has been this big, because I feel like Dauntless, unless I've been missing something, but I haven't seen much marketing. I didn't even notice launched or was about to launch in full until it came out, and then I was like, oh yeah, this game. That's right. So I was surprised. I haven't seen any big promotions for it, on either the PlayStation or the Xbox store, kind of counting down or anything like that. It just kind of came. So I was surprised that the word seemed to be out to this degree, where it's got, I think it was 4 million players, tops yesterday, maybe. I was reading a couple articles online. Destructoid wrote something, and I think I want to say The Verge too, or Engadget, one of them. But everyone's, Dauntless is apparently a hit, and people are willing to wait 3 hours to get in there. So that made me terrified of oh man, should I have kept playing? The only reason I stopped was to move on to something else I wanted to play. So now I'm terrified about going back in to see if I can just get back in there. But I guess good for them. Hopefully the team will have this resolved sooner than later. But for now, I need to play more of it. But I'm right now. What I do like is that it seems, like I said, like Monster Hunter Light. It doesn't seem so far to have the same crazy depth that Monster Hunter has, but it seems like an approachable version of that in like a fun way, and it seems like it could be a fun way to, you know, play with friends, and especially making it free to play, so it's easy to get friends to be like, hey, just download this, man. Come on, let's just go in there and swing our swords at this monster. Let's do it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to playing a bit more of that in the future. Just pray that it doesn't take 3 hours to do so. Another big online game that I started playing recently, again on Xbox One, is Black Desert, or Black Desert Online, which I guess it dropped the online at some point, and now it's just Black Desert. But this is, oh god, I forgot the name of the team, and I should know because I went to like a reveal event for the Xbox version at E3 last year. But Black Desert's been on PC for a few years now, and it's an MMO, but it's more of a third-person action game set in an open world that is presented as a massively multiplayer online game. I know the team is based in, I want to say, Korea, I think. Somewhere in Asia, I want to say Korea. But it's looked cool. Like, I've been keeping my eye on this game for years. I remember seeing it on PC, and it's got like almost like stylus action, kind of like a Dynasty Warriors or like a Devil May Cry almost to a degree. Like, it's got like, you pick all the character classes have these crazy melee attacks. You're going around fighting these monsters and you're doing cool stuff. Maybe almost a little bit of Dragon Dogma to an extent, but I think that the Dynasty Warrior / DMC comparison probably is more apt here. But as a fan of like crazy action melee games, I was like, oh wow, like I've never really played an MMO. The closest MMO I've ever played is Destiny, just because I'm not a PC gamer. I've probably covered this in past episodes, but I was like, that looks cool. Like, that's an MMO that speaks to me, just going around and just beating the crap out of stuff, doing crazy combos. And it was announced to come to Xbox, I want to say last year, maybe the year before. Like I said, I went to a reveal event in Los Angeles during E3. It was outside the convention center. Me and Jack Gardner, as well as Zach Wojnar over at Screen Rant, and Naomi Lugo as well. We went over to a theater. I forgot the name of the theater. I think it was just a Regal. Like, they rented out a Regal theater and had this big Xbox party thing. And it was funny because during the show, they were showing the trailer and showing it was a gameplay walkthrough. Like, I want to say like 30 minutes of gameplay walkthrough of the Xbox version, and then the sound cut off. So it was just the video but no sound, and they kept trying to make it work, and it just would not play the sound for whatever reason. So the poor developer, who is Asian, and his English wasn't fantastic, but it was good enough, he very hilariously decided to just say, screw it, and just kind of like commentate over the video. And it was hysterical because he is literally just looking at the screen, seeing like a person riding on a horse and just doing random things, and just kind of just commentating, just kind of dubbing over it, basically. Like, he's saying all this goofy stuff. Like, he's like role playing the character, basically. Like, he was like, there's like a scene where he was like, the character was fighting like some monsters, and he's just like, oh yeah, hit him, yeah, swing him, yeah, now we're gonna loot his body, I'm gonna throw it on my horse, yeah, oh, you see those guys over there, let's go over there, let's try to make peace, nope, we're gonna fight them, and did it. Like, he got so into it, which was amazing, and a great way to rebound from what had to be a kind of embarrassing and frustrating situation. But I remember I recorded it on my phone. I think I still have the video somewhere on my computer, because I was like, this is hysterical.
Left stick using for the movement, and it will autopilot activated, and you did not control left stick to move. It will go to auto, and you can look around the landscape with the right stick. But when driving your own controller, you can move faster and can use something like a drift, or rather, something on the sprint and go fast. Oh, what's that? It's a ship. Cute. Come on, boy, let's play with me. Come on, goodbye. Gotcha! What should I do?
Just throw him on a horse.
There's a lever on the spout. Wanna bet, little ship, wanna bet? He ran away. Okay, back to the mission.
Yeah, I've been playing again. I haven't played a ton of it. I've played maybe I want to say maybe 2 hours maybe of it, and I'm liking it so far. I chose the Muso class, which is like a martial artist guy or class with he's got like a sword. I think he had a sword or a spear or something, and he's got like an arrow. And I was also like, as I was playing this game, I had like a beginner's guide walkthrough on my computer because I like even a class selection. The thing that was kind of annoying was that none of the classes have any description for them. So like you could choose like a wizard or a mage or like an archer or ranger, I should say. And then there's like more vague classes like trying to remember like dark. I think it was like a dark mage or something, or like a lan or something. There's like weird words that I just didn't even know what they were supposed to do. Like you see their weapons, like okay, they have like little knives, but what do they do? And yeah, there's no description of like what does this class entail? Is it a good class to start if you're a beginner? Is it like what's the difficulty basically? So I had to turn to the internet to kind of find like a class walkthrough of like, okay, what does everything do exactly? Like what's got something that maybe I would be interested in that fits my playstyle? And then I settled on Muso because it seemed like a good balance of like doing cool stuff, but also being newcomer friendly. And like right now, I actually have another guide up to just kind of teach me the basics because, which I guess isn't surprising. Like most MMORPGs, it's very overwhelming when you get in there at first. Like I was just like, all right, here's all these players. I got like the giant, like half the or a quarter of the left screen is all of the party chat or just the in-game chatter, which I had to turn on because I didn't want to read people's text, especially since it's obscuring a significant portion of the screen. So I was like, maybe when I get better at this game, I'll maybe see what you people have to say. But for now, I just want to learn it. And you're distracting me. So going around, and I'm guessing I'm doing what you would do typically in MMORPGs, where like I'm just killing a bunch of random things, or like, hey, go kill these wolves so you can gain knowledge on them, and like little like beginner quests, like, hey, we're going to this tomb here. We need information from this guy. Go talk to this guy, and then that guy sends you to go kill some tree things, and then you kill the tree things, and you get more knowledge, and then you go back, and they're like, hey, can you kill advanced tree things? So you go kill advanced tree things, and then along the way, you're talking to like your black ghost spirit who like hangs around you, and it's more or less your Navi, your companion, and learning how to do all the, how to level up, how to equip things, how to make stuff. It seems like it'd be fun. I haven't played it in a few days, but I want to get back to it, and because it seems cool. And again, watching videos of it and people like doing high level play, and like it looks like a lot of fun. I'm not particularly looking forward to maybe the PvE stuff, just because I'm not a big PvE person. Or not PvE, PvP, I should say. PvE, absolutely. I'm fine with fighting the game. Other people, a little bit less so, at least for a long time. Let me get good at this game. The way I saw like a walkthrough video explaining how some classes are more difficult to master than others, it kind of gave me like a fighting game vibe. And kind of looking at the moves, it kind of seems like that because everything kind of has like a almost fighting game-ish like inputs of like, okay, like this attack is like down plus like Y, but if you do forward and Y, it does another attack, and you can like kick and trip people up, and then you can follow it up with this thing, which is cool. And I mean, I like fighting games, so it's definitely something I'm familiar with. So yeah, but right now I'm just like I'm wondering how much PvP stuff like do I have to do it? I know there's like big like battles and stuff like factions where like it's a bunch of players fighting each other. I'm not ready for that yet. I just want to get a handle on what my Muso guy, his name is Elijah Stark, by the way, because I thought the name Elijah was good, and then I struggled on the last name, and then I settled with Stark because, I don't know, Stark's a good name. I mean, Tony Stark, Game of Thrones, Starks, why not? So if you see a black dude with dreadlocks named Elijah Stark running around Black Desert killing wolves and doing flippy sword things, that is me. That is me. And yeah, it seems cool so far. Like I said, I want to spend more time of it. It's fun to try and kind of dip my toes in a genre that I traditionally have never had really very little experience with. So we'll see if I stick with it, and I'm see how the game, if the progression is satisfying enough, how long it takes to get to levels and get cool armor and whatnot. So playing this and Dauntless at the same time will be challenging, but hey, we'll see. Let's see. I've also been playing Photographs, which is by 88 Games, who is a personal favorite of mine because their previous two games, 10 Million and You Must Build a Boat, I am big fans of those games, love both of those games. And this is their latest joint that is very different from those two games. If you've never played 10 Million or You Must Build a Boat, they're mobile match three games more or less where you're matching tiles together, but at the same time you're doing this to unlock, like in 10 million you're trying to if I remember correctly, and it's been a long time since I played 10 million, but I think you're trying to pretty much just try to get 10 million, like a score or money or whatever it was. I remember You Must Build a Boat, the objective of the game was, as the title says, you must build a boat. So like every time you match three, you're spending the whole game constructing a boat, and once you construct the boat, you've beaten the game. They're both very addicting games and very well done. It kind of combines, like I said, match three, but like a dungeon crawler almost. And Photographs is a very different game where it is not that thing. It is a pretty much a narrative adventure game where it follows five different characters and it tells five different stories, all of them sad or tragic in some way. But you take turns playing as a character, and you're going through whatever their story is. And the Photographs name comes in where you're often zooming in on different areas of the scene, and they're telling you like, hey, find this thing, like hey, find a game. And then you look around and you see a table that maybe has chess, and then you using your thumb to center on it, and then it'll take a snapshot of it, and then that opens up a puzzle of some sort. And again, it's not a match three puzzle, it's just different kinds of puzzles. Like the first story, which follows like an old guy who's like an alchemist trying to cure his sick daughter or granddaughter, one of the two. The puzzle is that you're trying to maneuver the two characters into the slots, like you're pretty much trying to fit pieces into a hole, but there's a bunch of obstacles that change as the story goes on, and you're trying to find more elaborate ways of getting these two independent pieces into these holes while dodging obstacles and all this other stuff. I like it a lot. It's cool because every story has a different puzzle mechanic. Like the second story is this like you're following like this girl who's a diver, and you're trying to fire, like you're basically doing this like shooting a ball into a cup kind of thing, except it's a swimming pool, and you're trying to find ways of like trying to get this ball to either ricochet off things to get it into the goal. It's a little hard to explain. It's really neat. I like that the games are not only different with each story, but that the games within those story get more and more complex and different as you progress through the story. I think it said every story takes about a half hour or so to finish, maybe less. So with 5 stories, the game's only about 2.5 hours long, roughly. So it's not a long game. I am on the 3rd story right now. And I like that it's something different for that team. Like they could have easily just done another 10 million or You Must Build a Boat, and I would have been totally okay with that. But I like that they're kind of branching out and trying something different, especially since so far I'm liking it. The stories are pretty cool so far. I'm looking forward to seeing what the through line is with these stories in terms of like there seems to be an overall like a overall like story or a broader story on top of these 5 individual tales. So I'm seeing how they all tie together. But yeah, it's cool. And it's a little bit of a downer because all the stories, like I said, seem to be a bit on the sad side, almost kind of like, I'm going to say Twilight Zone-y, but it's definitely got that like, this is gonna go wrong in a weird way, and you just know it and you're just waiting for it. Though it's not as weird. It's not like a Twisted Metal ending kind of thing of like, be careful what you wish for. It's just like, oh, this could have worked out, but you made this bad decision and now it's all coming down, or something that you thought would be good went to hell in a somewhat unexpected but still reasonable way, I guess. I like it. I like it so far. So, like I said, that's on iOS, it's on Android, and it's on PC. I believe it's on Steam right now. I'm curious how the Steam version plays, because I intentionally waited for it to come on Android, because originally it launched for iOS and Steam only, and then it came to Android, I want to say, a few weeks later. But I think it uses touch controls in a really cool way, so I don't know if it'll have the same effect using like a mouse and keyboard or not. Who knows? I also think it's more expensive on Steam. Like I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure when I checked it on Steam, it was like $12, whereas on Android it's like $4, $4. So I wonder what the difference is in price there. But I think it's worth a look if you like that kind of stuff, or if you're a fan of that team, give Photographs a look at. And now for older stuff that I've been playing and getting farther in, I have finally completed Metro Exodus about a week ago. I am done with it, and I will say overall, I think that is a really good game that unfortunately suffers from some really, really disappointing technical problems, at least on Xbox One. I'm playing it on Xbox One X too, and that game, for whatever reason, suffered from regular like crashes. Like there were many times that the game just straight up froze on me and I had to restart I had to quit out the game and get back in, which is annoying because that game has a very long initial load time. Like when you jump into the game for the first time, it takes like 2-3 minutes or so for it to load into the game. So that's not fun when it crashes and you got that waiting for you. And there's other times where it'll just kind of like hitch up a little bit. This was a little less often than the crashes, but there were times where it get a little hitchy. But when it ran fine, it ran great, and it looks fantastic, especially on 1X. Like it's a very beautiful game. Some of the environments, especially after that initial area, which is probably the weakest area of the game. And I think that if you're starting this game, that first zone that you get to, like outside of the prologue chapter, but once you actually get on the train and the game starts and you get to that first area, that's the hardest one to get over because I don't think it's a good zone to start with because you're on a boat for a lot of it. Like it's like a marshland, and I don't think that the being on water stuff is fun because you're constantly being attacked by these underwater creatures who always seem to get a hit on you no matter what. Even if you react quickly and try to shoot them, they will always hit you first, like without fail. So I just hated being on a boat for that. And that first area, you have to be on a boat for half of it because everything's on marshland. You have to travel around to get to different islands to find stuff, assuming that you want to do the extra stuff. But even the mandatory stuff, you're going to find yourself on a little rowboat. But once you get past that and you move on to the other areas, the game opens up. And I had a hard time sticking with the game when I was in that area. Like you probably remember if you listen to the first few episodes of the show, I was in that first area for a while and I was like crawling my way through. Like I would do a mission here and there and then stop for a week or so until I finally sat down and powered through it. And after I got out of there and moved on to the rest of the zones, I pretty much just played that game exclusively because I really wanted to get it out of the way and finish it, clear up my backlog a bit. But I loved it. Like you go to, I don't want to spoil anything, so don't worry about that. But the areas that you go to are varied, like the different biomes, and the story gets a lot more interesting. Like it starts much like the train. It starts really taking off when you start meeting the characters. All the zones after it are great. There's a really, really beautiful foresty kind of valley area later in the game that I loved being in. This isn't a spoiler because it's actually the area that you saw in that initial E3 reveal with the bear. Like that area is really, really pretty. And I just like the different tribes, like that world. The way that world is expanded upon, because those previous two Metro games, you're only in the underground for a majority of it, and then when you're topside, you're kind of in the same general kind of looking zones, like the ruined city of Moscow. And you meet different factions within that Metro, but the factions that they introduce in Exodus are really creative for the most part. Like there's some kind of expected ones that you've seen in terms of like the ways people have kind of gone crazy. But there's one particular one late game, I think they're the last one you meet, I thought really, really cool one. And it sucks because I can't get into specifics. If you're playing the game, I'd like to leave it as a surprise. So maybe down the line, maybe towards the end of the year when I maybe talk about Game of the Year stuff, I'll be a bit more, I'll just start spoiling stuff and just talk about games in more detail. But there's a really cool faction that's kind of like a tribe late game that has a really fascinating and creative story behind them that I loved. But yeah, overall, I think Metro Exodus, technical problems aside, is a really, really good game, really cool narrative shooter, and one of the year's best. So I'm finally happy to have that done. I've also, now that that's done, I've buckled down and I've been playing Kingdom Hearts 3. I have had a hard time, surprisingly, playing this game And this has been like the monkey around my neck the last few months, especially with the show, because I've talked about it. Like there was that period where I was in Frozen forever, just stuck in that zone. And yeah, like I don't know what it was about Kingdom Hearts 3, but like I was excited about the game, of course, when it came out, being a Kingdom Hearts fan. And it came out and I was enjoying it, but like I think it's that the way that the writing has always been has not aged well at all, especially as writing in games has gotten more sophisticated, and that game's dialogue is so stilted and cringy, and it kind of undercuts any sort of real interesting storytelling or drama that that game might be trying to present. And that was a little bit hard for me to overcome. And even some of the worlds, like the early worlds, like Tangled, even though I love Tangled, like the world itself is kind of limiting, because it's like, well, what do you do with the forest and then the town? That's pretty much the only two locations in that movie. And Toy Story was a bit better. But yeah, like now that I've gotten past Frozen, like I like marathoned and I did Pirates of the Caribbean, I did Monsters Inc., and I just felt like the worlds got better and better as the game went on. And I don't know how long this game was in development for. It probably, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like forever, like Final Fantasy 15. But I don't know when they actually started. Well, I guess maybe it was when they announced it, because that first, what was it, E3 2013 or 14? It was 2013, because it was when the PlayStation 4 kind of did that, their like ass kicking of Microsoft, like that E3, because it was when Kingdom Hearts 3 and Final Fantasy 15 were announced at the same time, like back to back. So I guess that would, and like that teaser video with Sora fighting the Heartless, and then it said like currently in development. So I don't know if it started that year, which would still be a long time, because it's 2019 and it came out, so it took 6 years. But I wonder if those earlier zones were made first, and then the stuff after, like I want to say the second tier of worlds came afterwards, because the second tier just felt like there was more to them. Like they present really interesting mechanics, like the Pirates world is like a mini Assassin's Creed 4 or like Wind Waker, where you're sailing around this like little open ocean that I thought was like surprising and fun. And then like Big Hero 6 having its own thing, and the same with Monsters Inc. felt different, especially as that world gets on, it gets pretty cool. So that game kind of shows at certain points like it's almost like counting the rings of a tree, of like, oh, okay, this area feels like they started this in 2013, 2014, and then this level feels like they started this maybe a few years later. There's just a bit more to it, or I don't know. I would love to know what the development of the game looked like. We need a Jason Schreier deep dive into the development of Kingdom Hearts 3. So if you're listening, Jason Schreier, I know you're a big fan. Yeah, give us that. I want to know when these worlds were made and what time, and who did what. So yeah, it seems to be, I'm done with the Disney globe-trotting portion of the game, and now I'm in the second half of the game, which is just the Kingdom Hearts stuff, like the pure actual plot line. Like I got Aqua, and now we're gonna go get like business is picking up. So I'm excited. I'm excited to finally put this game behind me, and I'm enjoying it immensely more now than I was maybe in the first few hours of it. So I'm gonna try to get that game done before next week, because the Outer Wilds, or just the Outer Wilds, not to be confused with the Outer Worlds, which is the Obsidian game. Outer Wilds is the kind of survival-y space game that's coming to Xbox One Game Pass next week. It launches finally, which I've been looking forward to. And then Void Bastards, which I played at PAX. If you listen to my PAX East podcast, I talked about my time playing Void Bastards. But that game also releases next week for Game Pass. I believe it's the day before. I think Outer Wilds is May 30th, and Void Bastards is the 29th. And I would like to have Kingdom Hearts out of the way so I can focus on playing those two games. So yeah, that'll hopefully be the goal this weekend. No promises, of course, with Kingdom Hearts, but that's what I'm going to try to shoot for. So another game I finished, quote unquote, was Diablo 3. I've wrapped up I guess what was initially the main campaign of that game. I'm playing it on Switch. I haven't talked about this game in a while. I think I talked about it in episode 1 or 2 that I started playing the Switch version. This is my first time playing Diablo 3. And Diablo in general. I never really played a Blizzard game outside of Overwatch, just because I've never been a PC gamer, and a lot of their big games are on PC for the most part. So Diablo 3, I had it on PS4. I didn't get around to playing it, so I just sold it. And then when they announced the Switch version, I was like, that is the perfect platform for something like that. So I bought that version, which is the Eternal Collection, I think it's called. It's got like all the expansions and DLC that's ever come out for it. And yeah, I've been loving it. I've finally wrapped up the actual, I guess, campaign of that game, or at least the vanilla version of Diablo 3, like that game's campaign. And it kind of seamlessly starts you, or rather, it seamlessly transitions into the first expansion, which I believe is Rise of the Necromancer, something like that. Like, what was it? Something like that. Rise of the Necromancer. We'll say that. Something Necromancer. That seems to have been starting, which I'm excited for because I've heard that Diablo 3 gets really amazing with that expansion. I've heard that's a very good expansion. Diablo 3 base campaign was fine, but it was a bit too easy. Like, I had to bump up the difficulty towards like the latter half of it because I was like mowing through people and not breaking a sweat. I think I had like a lot of armor. I'm playing as a monk, by the way, named Shashinka. It's like this Russian lady who is very, very tough woman. And I think that I just had armor that just kept, or like armor and weapons that just kept giving me health every time I did anything. Like every time I sneezed, I just gained health. So I never died in a game. I didn't die a single time playing Diablo 3, and I very rarely even got to like half health. Like I was just always regenerating. I was like Wolverine basically. So I was like, oh, this is fun in a mindless way. Like it's a great podcast game to just listen to something and go around and just dungeon crawl. But then I wanted some challenge. I bumped it up to hard, and things got a bit better. I might bump it up to very hard probably soon. I'm going to play a bit of the expansion to see how that balance is compared to the vanilla version and see if I want to change anything up. But I'm excited. Like I said, I've had a really good time with Diablo 3. I think it's a cool game, and I like Diablo. I never thought I would get to say that. You know, I've always liked dungeon crawlers, but never the like, I guess the king of dungeon crawlers. So I used the opportunity to take a break from the game, like, or at least I used the fact that I beat vanilla Diablo to kind of walk away because there was a period where I was playing Diablo more than anything else. So I was like, okay, now that I'm at the first expansion, I'm gonna take a break for a while, and that's why I've started focusing on Kingdom Hearts 3. And then maybe after I beat Kingdom Hearts 3, I'll go back to Diablo. And yeah, other than that, I've played a little bit more Mortal Kombat 11. I've done a few more of the towers, unlocked some more of the crypt. I think I've unlocked, like, I got a trophy saying I unlocked 200 things in the crypt. I don't know if that's halfway or not. Right now I'm trying to save up to 2,000 of those green orbs to like unlock the soul, the pit bridge basically, because it's like half of it's cut off. You can't get to the other side. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do now to see what's over there. I've explored most of the crypt already, even without unlocking everything. So I'm having fun with it still. I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting back to it because that grind is a bit, it's starting to wear on me a bit, and I don't play online all that often or with other people that often. So like outside of that appeal, it's a lot of like, I'll go in there and do a tower just to, you know, get some coin and stuff like that and unlock some costumes. But other than that, I haven't spent too much time going back to it. I still love the game. I just wish it was maybe a little bit less grinding because I do want to see everything in that crypt. I want to unlock every chest just like I do or I like to do with every MK game or whatever. So, but yeah, the grind is starting to wear on me a bit with Mortal Kombat. And in between that, I've been playing Apex Legends. I got back into that. Been playing that with friends on Xbox One. I also got back into Overwatch recently. I had a huge Overwatch like spree with some friends on Xbox. And again, much like every time I walk away from Overwatch for any extended period, as soon as I come back and as soon as I like get my hands on like the controls and I start doing things, I always wonder why I walked away from it for so long. And I never walk away from it in like a screw this game kind of sense. You know, you just take sabbaticals because it's, at least for me, like I like to play a lot of single player stuff. So it's like, okay, I got to put this down because I want to play this, you know, I want to play Kingdom Hearts and I want to get this finished or whatever it might be. And then I kind of have a hard time going back to a multiplayer thing that's always going to be there and doesn't maybe change as much or doesn't have like an end, so to speak. But like every time I got back into Overwatch, and the last time I'd been into it was I think it was when Hammond was new, the hamster. So I got to play Ash for the first time, the lady cowboy with the shotgun and the robot. And I like her. I played a few rounds with her and started getting the hang of her a lot. And then I forgot that Baptiste, who was like, I think he's a healer. was added, and I didn't get to play him mainly because I forgot he existed until I saw someone on another team using him, and I was like, oh yeah. Like at first I thought that Ash was the latest, and I completely forgot about Baptiste. I feel like I haven't heard people talk about him that much, which I don't know if that's good or bad. But yeah, I had a blast playing with Overwatch. I was playing with two other friends of mine, and we just were killing it. We had a great record. I think by the time we were done, we were like 10 or 9-3 in our rounds. So it's pretty good for a comeback. And that game's just so good. And man, I wonder if that's ever gonna come to Switch, because we got Diablo on Switch, Blizzard and Nintendo. I mean, Blizzard and Nintendo have worked together before. I mean, StarCraft 64 is a good example of that. Didn't Diablo come to N64 too? I know it came to PlayStation. I don't remember if Diablo ever came to 64, but StarCraft 64 happened. So we've got precedent for Blizzard on Nintendo, and Overwatch on Switch just seems like that would be that's come on, that's money right there. I already own Overwatch on PlayStation and Xbox One. I would absolutely pay for it again on Switch just so I can lay in bed and play Overwatch and play it on the go. Granted, playing on the go is going to be tricky because it's an online game, so you're going to have to be somewhere with an internet connection. But again, just being able to play it handheld and just sit around somewhere else or lay down or whatever it may be and, get my tracer on, that would be amazing. So I don't know if that's in the works or anything like that, but my God, I just feel like that is money on the table right there. They would already have my $60 or maybe my, less than $60 if I use my coins or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I would buy the game again. So Blizzard, Overwatch, Switch, make it happen. Let's do it. So I've been taking trips to the cinema recently, and one of the films I went to go see was Pokemon: Detective Pikachu, a movie I was very much looking forward to, despite not even being the biggest Pokemon fan. I loved Pokemon back when it first hit the US back in, what was it, like 97, 98. Like, I was obsessed with Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow. I used to love watching the anime. I watched all the way up to Johto. I've probably told this story before, probably in the Pokemon podcast from a few episodes ago. But yeah, I used to love Pokemon, fell out of it, didn't really keep up with any of the other generations, but still have an affinity for it. Enough to where I was like, you know what? That Pikachu thing looks surprisingly okay. Like, all the trailers leading up to it had a charm to them, and the Pokemon looked fantastic. The way they kind of straddle the line between realism and the game designs. And it's like, you know what? This might be not terrible. I still kind of have my guard up because, as we know, video game movies are traditionally bad. I can't even say mediocre. A lot of them are mostly bad, and mediocre is kind of the best we can hope for. Again, with the exception of the first Mortal Kombat movie, which is genuinely awesome. I will always preach this to the day I die. Mortal Kombat 1, 1995, really fun, good video game movie. And after seeing Detective Pikachu and hearing people proclaim it as the best video game movie of all time, I'm still going to say Mortal Kombat's better. I liked Detective Pikachu, but I will say overall I was a bit disappointed about it. And I'm going to say now I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to get into details. I'm going to just be kind of general with my thoughts on it. So if you have not seen the movie, have no fear. But I just walked away kind of a little let down. And I will say that my main issue with the movie is I think that it has horrible pacing. Like, it is very uneven and inconsistent. So, the first half of the movie, it feels like it's going a million miles an hour to the point where, a lot of the scenes don't get time to develop, and I wasn't able to get invested in the characters and the plot because it seems like they're just kind of rush you along, and it kind of feels like a montage of everything you've seen in the trailers. So it's like, hey, remember that Mr. Mime scene we keep showing? Well, here it is. And remember the cage fighting scene? Well, here it is. It's like one after another, and it just kind of gets going. Like, the whole movie, I don't know what the exact runtime is, but it can't be more than an hour and a half, like 90 minutes. It feels like it really gets you in and out of there. And it really hits the ground running in a bad way. Like, it has a cool opening, kind of harkens a little bit back to the original anime. And then from there, you get introduced to Justice Smith's character, whose name I don't remember in the movie. I've forgotten all the characters' names. That's how much they stuck with me, I guess. And yeah, like it kind of has a like the acting isn't stellar. Like it almost kind of has like a made for TV movie vibe to it to a degree. And like they have some interesting ideas of like Justice Smith's character being the son of this police officer who gets killed. And this isn't spoiler again. This was all premise prior. This was all out there before the movie. And how he wanted to be a Pokemon trainer, but then fell out of it for reasons unknown. And again, the movie moves so fast in the beginning that I feel like you don't get enough time to kind of get to know Justice Smith. Man, I really don't remember his character's name at all. I'm like trying to remember as I'm talking about him. Like, what was his name again? I don't know. But yeah, you don't really get to know him that well. Like, he kind of has a kind of charming performance. He's just kind of the straight man to everything in the world. But yeah, it's funny because like it was like torn where it's like, oh, I would like to know more about these characters, but at the same time, I was like, I just want to see the Pokemon, and maybe that's a result of the characters not being interesting enough to be like, can we just show the Pokemon? Like, I just want to see them. It's like every time a Pokemon come on screen, I'm like, oh, that thing, yeah, look at that, that's Trico, I think, or whatever. Yeah, look at that guy, he looks good. The world was cool, like Rhyme City, this like metropolis where Pokemon and humans live side by side. There's no Pokemon trainers or battles. They're just part of society, and they work jobs like you saw in the trailer. Like Machamps are street guards, and Growlithe work at the fire department, or not the fire department, the police department. What am I saying? Squirtles work for the fire department, obviously. I mean, Squirtle Squad. Let's be real here. Like that was a cool idea for a world, and like I said, like visually everything looks fantastic, but the it's weird, like the characters almost kind of get in the way of like I almost want to just have like a documentary style movie about Rhyme City, and I just want to see all the Pokemon. Like I just want to see all the Pokemon in movies and like what they do, and just kind of have little random anecdotes of people living with their Pokemon and how that is, what that life's like. Then the actual movie plot. There's the girl that's Justice Smith's second, like his buddy, who's like a reporter. Like she doesn't feel all that important, and she kind of helps, but ultimately she feels kind of inconsequential to the plot. And Ken Watanabe is in it, and he's cool because Ken Watanabe is cool in general, and you're like, oh man, there he is. He's a police chief, but he doesn't really do that much in the movie. He's kind of got a limited role, so can't even say much about him. And as for old Ryan Reynolds, the electric elephant in the room, he was fine as Pikachu. Like, he was Ryan Reynolds. He had some funny lines, and like Pikachu himself looked fantastic again, like all the Pokemon, adorable. And I thought Ryan Reynolds was totally fine. I mean, it's no Danny DeVito, let's be real here. But Ryan Reynolds, totally acceptable, funny, entertaining, all that good stuff. So I really don't have any complaints about he himself. It's just that I just wanted to get more emotionally invested in this movie outside of the novelty of seeing the Pokemon, and the movie doesn't give people a chance to, or at least it didn't give me a chance to. And it's not to the second half of the movie that it kind of hits the brakes and slows down, which at that point it's a bit too late, because then the movie just felt uneven. It's like, oh, now we're gonna take a break for a bit and kind of develop some things here. It's like, okay. And the main plot was actually surprisingly more convoluted than I expected. Like when they actually explain like Detective Pikachu's his organs. I mean his origins, but would you want to know his organs? Like his vocal cords, like why can he speak perfect English and other things? They do not go into that disgusting detail, but they, when they explain how he can talk, the answer is a little more complicated than I expected. So yeah, but I will say, like, it's a totally harmless movie. It's fine. It's entertaining, and if you love Pokemon, I think you should see it, just because of it's cool to see these characters brought to life so lovingly. Like I can't stress enough how much of a great job they did with the actual like Pokemon themselves and bringing them to the real life, and kind of like they feel like how I would imagine these creatures if they occupied our actual living space. Like, yeah, Pidgeotto's flying around like that. Yeah, I could see that. That makes sense. It just, yeah, it's the opposite of the original Sonic the Hedgehog movie design of like, man, these things don't look gross and overly humanoid or realistic. It's like I said, it straddles that fine line between realism and fantasy. So yeah, I say it's still worth watching, and go see it. I don't know if I ever want to see it again. I mean, I might rewatch it again, probably just to see if my mind changes, maybe without the expectations of it, and just watch it as a film. But yeah, I'd say I was mildly disappointed, but it's fine. It's definitely it's way better than most video game movies. I'll give it that. Like, it's about 90. It's in the upper echelon. Maybe it's number 2 behind Mortal Kombat. And, speaking of video game films, I just want to mention quickly that the Sonic the Hedgehog movie was recently delayed, and now it is coming out Valentine's Day of 2020. No doubt because the director announced that they would be redesigning Sonic after all of the vitriol thrown its way after the debut trailer. And on one hand, that's cool because that probably means the artist and whoever, the VFX people won't have to kill themselves as bad to try to fix a CG hedgehog and still hit that November release date, which is a lot harder than a lot of people may or may not realize. And it's funny because, like, it's a movie based on a video game, and now it's being treated like a video game and that it's been delayed. Like you don't. I don't know. For some reason, I mean, even though it happens, you don't really hear as much about films getting delayed. Or I guess maybe you do, but I guess maybe it's not as. It's not reported on in the same way that games do, or something. Or maybe it's me, like, not following film as much. But I just seeing that the Sonic movie had been delayed just felt weird because I was like, huh. I'm not so used to hearing about games do that. I don't know why it feels novel to hear a movie get delayed the same way a game normally does. But art imitating life. Would a movie be any better? Like, would they take this opportunity to maybe re-examine the script just out of maybe paranoia of like, okay, since we're fixing this hedgehog, maybe we should go over some of the stuff in the trailer that other people might not have liked outside of how he looked. Like, maybe these jokes aren't as funny as we thought, or maybe they're not landing the way we thought they would be, and the tone or whatever. Like, I mean, that would require reshoots and stuff like that, and that might be hard to do. You have to pull the actors back in to say like, hey, can you do this again? And that might not be possible with actors' schedules, but I just want to know if they only work on Sonic and leave everything else alone. I mean, we'll never know until, at least not until years after the fact, because if we see the movie, we won't know what the original cut was anyway. But sure, Valentine's Day. I guess I should get a date, schedule it for next year, and see if she wants to go watch a cartoon hedgehog on screen with me. I've got months now to plan for it. Originally, it was going to come out my birthday weekend, so I got to find new birthday plans. Any suggestions? What should I go see? If there are any other video game movies that look not great that are coming out that weekend? But hey, good move. Why not? I don't think the world is clamoring right now to see Sonic, so I think I can speak for most of us in saying that we can wait. We can wait. See, another thing I want to touch on quickly was Sony did their second State of Play thing about a week or two ago. The only thing I really want to touch on is the Final Fantasy VII trailer, or the Final Fantasy VII remake trailer. This is the first new footage of that game in some time, maybe a year or two. And I'm still want to play that game. I love Final Fantasy VII, a big fan of that game. And the remake looks like a super nice version of that game. I mean, of course, it's very different. It's more actiony than turn-based, which I'm fine with. Like, if I want turn-based, I'll just play that old game again. Depending, obviously, if the action's done well, then I don't mind. It's got more of a Final Fantasy 15 or Kingdom Hearts looking vibe to it. And that trailer that they showed, it looks like, is probably the first couple hours of the game. Aerith is there. And I'm just I want to see I want to see more of like Sephiroth. Like, he got a little bit of love here, but I want to see more of him. Really, I don't know why. I just want to see more of him, and I want to see an actual breakdown of the combat. Like, I want a big walkthrough of this is how this game is going to play. And we might be getting that around E3 because Square Enix said that they're supposed to be sharing more Final Fantasy VII news around that time. I can't remember if it was going to be E3 week or like the week prior to E3, but it is around that time. I would imagine that they're doing another press conference. So where else would you talk about Final Fantasy VII than your Square Enix press conference? Especially since Sony's not going to be there, so they don't even have a stage to put that game on because it is a PS4 exclusive, I believe. Pretty sure it is. But it was nice to see that game, though the luster of the remake finally being a thing that exists has kind of worn off, and now I just want it to just come out and like I just want to learn more about it. Like I want to know, is it still episodic? I want the breakdown, like how long is an episode? How many episodes are we gonna get? What's the release roadmap like? That particular question terrifies me because this is Square Enix we're talking about. Like I could be 80 years old before the third episode of Final Fantasy VII decides to come out. And ultimately, somewhat unrelated, I was really hoping Square had learned its lesson with Final Fantasy 15 in terms of announcing things maybe too early. And granted, they didn't plan for Final Fantasy 15 to take 10 years to come out. There was a series of hiccups along the way, to say the least. But with Final Fantasy VII and Kingdom Hearts 3 to a degree, just wait. Like, just wait till you're like in terms of development. Like, you're just knee deep in, and so just so you're not fans, wait for so long. Like Kingdom Hearts 3 and Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced in 2013 at E3, if I remember correctly, and it came out this year. That was 6 years ago. And then Final Fantasy 15 became Final Fantasy 15 in 2013 after it had been announced 7 years before, and that didn't come out till 2016, so 3 more years, which isn't terrible. But I guess it is because it's really, that was just a rebranding. And Final Fantasy VII Remake was announced in 2015, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure. I think I'm pretty good with dates. I want to say it was E3 2015, and we are in 2019, about almost exactly 4 years later, and still have seen not a ton of that game. And we have like a somewhat decent idea of what it is, but not super so. So yeah, I just want to see it. I just want to see it now. I don't like the ooh ah factor of like there it is it's gone for the most part, and now I want the fact sheet. That's what I want now. And let's see, is there anything else I want to touch on? Medieval is getting a release date, the Medieval remake. I'm excited for that game. I'm a big fan of Medieval. I played the crap out of that game back in the day. That's coming out October 20 something. It's very close to Halloween, which is appropriate. Let's see, Anthem is still on fire. That's unfortunate. Apex Legends apparently isn't doing too great, or at least it's declining. Like, it's still doing fine compared to most multiplayer games, but it's dropping off a bit, which, I can see that. That game's still a lot of fun. I still love that game, but I guess in an era of Fortnite that, that game constantly updates itself, which, if, reports are to believe, is very much to the detriment of the employees' health over at Epic. They kind of have an insane schedule trying to crank that updates out. That volcano's not going to erupt itself. Sucks, because I guess now they've kind of set this unrealistic standard of your game constantly has to be getting just new stuff all the time, or it's not quote unquote good. And Apex, its season pass was seen as underwhelming, which I agree with to an extent. And they're supposed to be showing their second season pass during their EA Play stream a couple days before E3 starts. So hopefully we get a really big beefy season 2, because I never bought the season 1 pass, even though I love the game, but I just didn't feel super compelled to buy the pass even with the new character. So hopefully they got something to show at E3, because that game I think it's still a lot of fun. Man, E3 is coming really, really soon. I've already got my flight booked. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Very excited, and again, very just like, oh boy, here we go. This is gonna be a weird year with Sony gone, and so many people either not going to the show or not having a press conference like they normally do, like EA. And I took a glance at the floor plan, and I was like, ooh, there's a lot more emptier space here, I'm noticing, and some of the like there's a lot of more booths that have taken over the indie space that are kind of like I would say miscellaneous, but more niche, I guess we'll say, like niche booths or stuff like that. Like a little bit more just like, oh, okay, like we're getting really abstract here, I guess. Abstract's not the word, but you probably get what I'm saying. Just like it's not as many heavy hitters there. It's basically what I'm getting at. And yeah, that's gonna be an interesting show floor to wander by. And I haven't heard, and I would imagine it's happened, but like I haven't really heard if the tickets have gone out for E3 yet, like the tickets for the public. They probably have, and maybe I just missed the story because at this point they absolutely should have. But I that feels like less of a thing, like less of a big deal. Like, oh, public tickets for E3 are out there. I'm wondering if the cost is the same, given that one of the big three, publisher slash hardware makers are no longer there. I probably said this before, but I feel like that would impact the value of that ticket a lot. If I'm a PlayStation fan, why would I go to E3 if PlayStation's not going to be there? And even if you're not strictly a PlayStation fan, that's still a big chunk of, again, video games just gone. So I wonder if I mean I highly doubt that the tickets are lower because just just realistically from a business sense, like if they can get away with charging the same thing, they're gonna do it. And by they I mean the ESA. But yeah, I want to know, like, if you are planning to go to E3 and you bought a ticket as a fan, let me know if you got it and how much it cost. I'm interested. And also tell me what you are excited to see. Join the conversation. Start the conversation, really. But yeah, this feels like more than years past. This will be my fourth show, and like compared to the years that I've been, and even the years before I started going, because I watch every year. We're in a transition year with new hardware, but then Nintendo isn't. They're kind of in their prime with the Switch right now, so they're kind of in their own little pocket universe. And then we've got the show still trying to have its cake and eat it too, between being a trade show and being like a fan PAX kind of thing. And then you've got all the drama around like games like Anthem and Fallout 76 specifically, because Bethesda's holding an event. And I just want to know what the over-under is on Todd Howard making a Fallout 76 joke. Like, does he have the gall to get on stage and make light of that game's problems? Like that, and just, I don't know, there's a lot of things going on right now. Google Stadia is still out there. Remember that? That's still a thing that's happening. Our all digital future and streaming. Will that become more of a real thing with Microsoft showing off probably new hardware, from what I've heard for months now, is that's what they're going to be doing? And will it be an all streaming thing too? Will Xbox become more of a platform where they announce that Xbox Live will be on Switch and maybe PlayStation and just other things? Who knows? There's a lot of big question marks. Some of them scary, some of them fascinating, some of them exciting. It's gonna be it's weird. Like, on one hand, this could be a very underwhelming show, but in another way, this could be one of the most fascinating, just weird shows. And just I could see some surprises, some pretty big surprises coming out of this year. It's just my gut. But yeah, as I leave you guys to ponder that, we're going to button up this episode of Marcus Talks About Games. If you want to reach out to me on Twitter, you can do so at MarcusStewart7. That's the number 7. And you can also follow me on my personal blog, marcuswritesaboutgames.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on ScreenRant.com. Check out my game reviews there. And I also contribute daily news stories over on that site. And if you're a Dungeons & Dragons fan, if you like listening to Dungeons & Dragons gameplay, I'm a part of 2 Dungeons & Dragons podcasts. The first is We Wanted Adventurers, and the second is Dragon Guard. Both of them DM'd by one Jack Gardner, senior editor over at Extra Life and host of the Best Games Period podcast, or at least co-host, along with Naomi Lugo, who is another member of the Dragon Guard podcast. You can find both of those shows over at the Best Games Period banner at SoundCloud, as well as extralife.org and Libsyn. And finally, as you're probably used to if you've been on the internet for any substantial amount of time, be sure to like, share, subscribe this show, Marcus Talks About Games, which you can find at Marcus Makes Media on YouTube and SoundCloud. And if you're looking for iTunes, you can find it there at Marcus Writes About Games. Kind of confusing, I know, but that's kind of how it is right now. Marcus Writes About Games on iTunes, Marcus Makes Media on YouTube and SoundCloud. So again, guys, I genuinely appreciate you sticking around. Thank you so much for listening. I've got an E3 podcast coming up in the next episode. Gonna kind of break down some predictions. I may or may not have a guest on there to help me out with that. We'll see. We'll leave that as a surprise. But yeah, right before I fly out to LA, just want to talk about all the kind of stuff we know about the show and, see how I think things are going to play out and throw maybe some guesses, some educated guesses about where we can go and maybe some far-flung hopes and dreams as well. So get ready for that E3 show next week. And until that comes, thank you for listening and have a great day.